and social justification. But what exactly is green economy? It is a new economic paradigm? Well, that's a question we're asking ourselves. Well, to break down for us, I have with me the Ambassador of Denmark to Kenya, His Excellency Geert Andersen, and Director of Institute for Law and Environmental Governance, Benson Ochieng. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Maybe let's just get to the brass tack with elementals, and we begin by defining green economy. What is green economy?
Debal, in simple terms, we are talking about efficient use of resources. Resources which actually underpin or support livelihoods of our economy, of the local people who struggle every day with the means of eking livelihood. So it's not really a new term as such. What we are drawing attention to is the fact that the resources we have are finite. They can be depleted. And in our struggle to make sure that these resources are used today and also preserved for future generations, we are saying we need to rethink the way we use them. We should not assume that they will be there tomorrow or take it as a given, however much they look like they are there. So essentially what we are saying is we can do better in our struggle to support livelihood, in our struggle to improve our economy, in our struggle to move the millions of the poor into a certain bracket where they can actually be able to live a decent livelihood. We should be very clear on the way we want to utilize these resources in a way that ensures they are there today and they're there in future. Efficiency in the use of resources.
Efficiency in the use of resources. You know, it really sounds like an oxymoron, because we have green economy and Kenya being an agricultural country. We always think green, of course, our economy and our revenue, it's being accrued from the green economy or the agricultural sector. But it really flies in the face of what you're really saying. It's actually the depletion of the resources. Well, it's really gained traction in the last 2 years. Yes. Ambassador, if you may chip in and tell me, why do you think it's really gaining traction, this green economy concept?
I think there's a growing realization that development cannot continue as we have done so far. As my friend Benson is just saying here, I mean, with finite resources and working in environment which becomes more and more precarious, we have to think again how we actually utilize resources. That's why, let's take an area like northern Kenya. We have an area which by itself is fragile. This has always been the case. We have then, on top of that, we have had climate change, which we see now coming back again and again. There are droughts are coming back more frequently. And then we have the population increase. Before, pastoralists could move around with their cattle, finding areas for grazing, finding water holes where they could let their cows and camels and goats and sheep and whatever they carry along with them. Water. These water holes are getting more scarce. The grassland is getting more scarce. We also see in the urban environment, we see the pollution.
Yes.
We see the utilization of energy. And what is the result? CO2, warming of the earth, and climate change. So we get back to this again. And we must ensure now that these things come together. And that's what the green economy is all about. Bringing these different issues together so that we have the economic side, the environmental side, and the social side of this put together in a way so they support each other. If we just move down along one of these roads, if we only focus on the economy, if we only focus on growing, we will have environmental problems. We will have social problems. If we only think about social issues, if we only try to think about getting people employed, getting social service sectors up and running, getting health, if we only spend money on this, there will be no growth. If we only think about environment, we cannot do that. Environment is very important, but you have to take the two other areas into consideration.
True.
That's why it is so important to think broadly now.
Right. Now, before we even gravitate deeper into this conversation, it will be only fair to actually ask this question. Has the brown economy really failed to adequately promote sustainable development as far as social marginalization is concerned, as far as environmental degradation is concerned, and also the depletion of resources? Has it failed? That's why we are resorting to green economy.
No, definitely it has not been going rosy for us in the development front.
Yes.
Essentially, when we focus only on the brown economy, we want to exploit resources in the name of growing the economy. And we've seen this happen from time to time. When we go down there and we say we are going to exploit it as much as possible and we are going to sell it and get foreign exchange, we forget the other aspects that the ambassador has so ably demonstrated. We forget that the people who own these resources use these resources for local livelihood support. We also forget that they have rights. And what happens with the brown economy is you want to mine minerals, there are people who live on that land either as ancestral land or for pastoralism or for other socio-economic purpose. And then you go there and you say, we have so much gold here or we have so much sand here, we are going to mine it. These people have to have a place to live. So you actually undermine the social side of it, the cultural side of it, and definitely the environmental side of it, because that is a very obvious thing that the brown economy does. It destroys the environment. So that is why we are coming to this point and saying, yeah, green economy. We want an integration of all these concerns. We want efficiency. We want to ensure that when we think of, okay, we have resources here which are useful to us, which can be turned into foreign exchange, which can be turned into other materials for economic growth. But let's worry about the social aspects. And you see that theme running through and through our new constitution. Is talking about social equity, is talking about environmental sustainability, is talking about participation in development. You have to bring all these together, because you are not going to make a good judgment of where to bring the balance if you don't do it together with the people who are most likely going to be affected. So that is what this new paradigm is all about, that let us look at all these various aspects, and that is what it will mean to grow, not just economically, not just socially, and not just environmentally. They have to meet at a certain point, and where you get the balance, that essentially is green economy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Now, the National Resource Management Program, of course, is one of the largest and the most comprehensive bilateral support that is coming from the Danish government to support Kenya in the field of sustainable development. When did you begin this program?
It actually started many years back, because we have been in the water sector here in Kenya for many, many years. We have been in the agricultural sector here for many, many years.
Right.
But for 4 or 5 years ago, we realized that if we are to achieve the synergies between water and agriculture, we have to bring them together. So that's why we moved from having an agricultural program and a water program to having what actually brings these two elements together, a natural resource management program. So 3-4 years, we designed this program, which has basically 3 components. We try to support the government with policy to get policy development going, which will set the framework conditions for how this country is actually developing. We try to support with green with climate change programs, and then we have community development programs in different parts of the country. And these 3 elements together, actually, I think will help very much towards achieving this goal of this is green economy in practice, if I may put it that way.
Right. Now, then you had the first forum last year, in February, and you're engaging the private sector. In fact, I think that was the running theme for last year.
Exactly.
This time forth, you've decided to train your focus on the county. Why the counties?
No, because I think, as Benson was just saying, it is this country is now
devolving
devolving, and is transforming itself. this country is becoming truly democratic. Truly democracy is that the people on the ground actually have a say in what goes on. We need to have action locally to get global impacts, right? Only if we can get people on the ground to look at this as an everyday problem for them. How do they deal with the environmental issues on the ground? How do they make sure that there's a utilization of the water that they have, of the land that they have, that they develop these resources in a way which is sustainable? Then the country will grow. And this understanding can be brought along now with the devolution, because people expect developments, and that they expect that the devolution will bring them positive aspects, right? And I think putting these sustainable development aspects into the devolution will further that process of people actually seeing, okay, water resources with support and seen in a framework can actually be sustained. And I think this can be a very concrete outcome of this of the devolution, that people actually care about the nature. But I mean, of course, we have to work with the local people. We have to make sure that the framework conditions are in place, and that's why we're working on.
True. Now let's bring it closer home when we talk about the Vision 2030.
Right.
Do you think the Vision 2030 really provides a handy opportunity to actually realize the transitioning of the devolved government and also transitioning into the green economy? Do we have that infrastructure? Of course, we have the economic and the social pillars, and the other pillar I cannot remember.
Economic, social, and political.
And political, yes.
In those pillars, I think one of the things that has been not emphasized enough, or has not been emphasized enough, is the sustainable development pillar that actually underlies all the social, economic, and political pillars of that policy or that development strategy. And there has been a lot of effort and a lot of debate on how do we ensure that we mainstream sustainability in this Vision 2030. I think we have reached a stage where the government is keenly aware that that particular component, the environmental sustainability bit, needs to be emphasized. And working with a lot of development partners and experts, I know that there has been considerable effort to bring at the center or to the center of that Vision 2030 the issue of environmental sustainability. That is going on. If you see the series of policy efforts that is going on currently, the development of the National Climate Change Response Strategy, currently the development of an implementation plan for that response strategy, all the effort to formulate policy on disaster, all this is happening in the context of Vision 2030. The reason it is very important is that the world and our country is going through this fundamental change imposed on us by factors beyond our control, particularly climate change. If we are going to build the roads, if we are going to ensure that we do the bridges, we have to take into account what are the likely scenarios in future, in 2030 and not today. And that debate is taking place very comprehensively right now in government. Of course, there is always the room to improve it, but a lot of effort, development effort, is going into how to ensure that we mainstream this thing, the sustainability, green economy issues in achieving Vision 2030. Because otherwise, we might have all the flyovers, and we might have all the roads, and we might have all the buildings next to all the ports. Talk of the Lamu port. Then you realize that there is sea rise, and we can't use the roads that are next to the sea anymore.
True.
And we can't use the bridges because one way or another, the metals that were used are expanding because of other conditions. So this particular issue of sustainability, the issue of green economy, must and ought to inform the question of Vision 2030. I think that debate is going on, and it is very good that it is happening right now.
Well, I'm interested, you mentioned about the buildings and the flyovers, because I think what we're failing to really notice is right now they have a plan of coming with a Konza City.
Right.
Yeah, the Silicon Valley, which is supposed to be the Silicon Valley of Kenya or of Africa.
Right.
And I don't think we are really emphasizing on green cities.
Right.
Yes?
Right.
Is it really captured in the Vision 2030 about the green cities that we will be having? Of course, we see the Vice President, the ex-Vice President of United States, Al Gore,
Right.
even his office right now,
Right.
yeah, it's a green office. Are we really heading there where we'll be having green buildings, you know, green cities? Will the Kansas City be a green city? If we are really fighting and watching for Vision 2030.
The jury is still out there.
Yes.
Whether really what we are doing is enough as a country to make us reach where we ought to go. There are costs associated with some of these issues, and there are resources that we have to put in mind when we are talking of green cities and all that. But the fundamental point that we need to get, it is not as sophisticated as it should look. Green economy is about the simple things that matter. When we plan development, and it starts at the household level. Do you switch off the lights when you are leaving the house? Do you switch off the other equipment that use electricity? Because, or do you turn off your water when you are taking a shower, for example? Do you let it run the whole day, or do you switch it off when you are leaving the bathroom? It is about when you have your piece of land, and we are talking about 10% forests. In this country, we have only 1.7%. Do you see the economic, social, and environmental value for leaving a portion of that land under trees? So green economy and green cities must be about the simple things that matter. Have we sensitized our population enough so that in our offices or when we are constructing buildings, we ensure that we can use natural light, a lot of which we have. When we have opportunities, for example, to use solar energy, are we investing in simple technologies that can tap the sun that we have? Imagine European countries, for example, Germany, are leading in solar technologies, not just in developing them, but also in using them. While here we have the sun 12 hours of a day
running,
and we barely are scratching the surface on the issue of solar technologies. And yet, one of the things that is undermining our economic growth a lot is the fact that every season, every year, we talk of power outages, shortages, our
rationing,
can't fill up, but power rationing.
Yes.
And you can see the economic costs. So as we talk about Kansas City and how sophisticated the flyovers are going to be, we may be missing, or we may not be doing enough at individual level, because charity begins at home. We can sit here and pontificate about green economy, what is happening in our backyard.
Yes.
Or we can blame the government for not doing a green city or whatever, but we can do it at the local level because we are doing development every day. And every activity in life is actually a development issue. So it starts there. And if we get our population to be sensitized enough about this, the simple things you do in your farm, the simple technologies you use, even replacing bulbs so that you use the energy saving bulbs instead.
Yeah,
that is part of the green economy we are talking about.
Yeah, maybe Ambassador, you might be watching us from the periphery. You're looking at Kenya, of course, being an outsider. And we have the blueprint from Parliament. They want to come up with a new Parliament building, and we saw the cost of the wood will go actually into building the furnitures or making the furnitures for Parliament. And for me, I don't think they're really thinking about greening or the building or the Parliament building that will come. Also, in the same breath, we have the Mau forest, which is on fire right now. What is your response from your end? What is the government really doing to aid this? We've seen people really coming and bringing the Bambi helicopters to try and put out the fire. We're trying to get aid from other countries to really try and put up this fire. They say 82 billion shillings worth of forestry has been raised down by the fire.
Of course, I'm sure the parliamentarians and the speaker has looked at these issues with making sure, that the parliament is actually also green in the way it is now.
Do you think so?
Thought out. I hope so. I'm sure they will. I know the speaker very well, and I'm sure he has taken this into consideration. With regard to the forest is a very, very important element. I mean, it was you just mentioned also, Benson, here we have about 1.5, 1.6% of this country covered by forest, and we should try to get up to about 10%. And we must make sure that these natural resources are not only preserved, but that they are developed. Because developed not for their own sake, but for us human beings to utilize them. Because this is also the green economy, getting utilization of the resources in a way that is sustainable for human development. We are not trying to preserve these forests just because they are nice to look at, but because they are useful. They are useful for water. We all know about the towers, the water towers here in Kenya. That's why we should not cut down the forest, right? They are important for the hydro dams that this country is benefiting from in its energy, which is a non-polluting energy resource, right? So the forest is very, very important for this. It's also important for the biodiversity.
Yes.
There are many plants, animals, which live there, and which to us is very, very useful. Some of them are there and are being hunted by the local population, and some of them might in the future turn out to be very, very valuable in terms of medicine. We have seen that again and again, that there are benefits that can be that we can get from these forests, which we don't really realize at the moment. There's a gene bank here, which we must really preserve. So what government can do and is doing is, of course, to develop the framework for the forests to develop, and for all other natural resources, for the benefit of human development, not for the sake of preserving, but for the benefit of human development, so that we get employment, so that more young people in this country, where too many are unemployed, can actually get into employment. This is what this is about, I think.
Right, Benson.
Right.
Of course, there exists, several entry points as we are heading towards the counties.
Right.
And we have the Constitution, which has really opened up opportunities. And I want you to walk us through the entry points that will transition us through to the green economy. What are some of the entry points that we'll be having? Of course, I know land utilization is one of them.
Right.
We can see the minister is pulling now the land bill out of Parliament. So what are the ramifications for this?
Well, as we said, charity begins at home. And as we said, green economy is about integration of social, economic, environmental aspects of development. This cannot be achieved without planning at the local level, because that is where all these problems are. Action has to begin locally for global impacts. The small little things that matter at the local level is what will translate at the national level into a green economy.
Right.
For Kenya.
I'm sorry to butt in. Before you go on,
right.
We have callers who are hanging on the line, and of course, they'll love to really engage on this conversation. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Dibali, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm Mohammed Hussein calling. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, and the topic you are talking about, it was green energy. It was very wonderful.
Thank you.
I just opened the TV at the middle, and I was very much impressed by Benson, how he was talking about the potential of the green energy. I think the place where I am is Yolo County, has got a lot of wind energy and solar. Hello, and it needs to be tapped. It has not already been tapped.
Yes.
And I was asking how ILEG can come to maybe sensitize the people so that such ventures can be in future be assisted by the government or the ambassador himself. Because we are now running a group here. Or how can I contact later Benson Award?
Right, for sure. Well,
okay.
Just leave your number with us. We'll get in touch with you. I'm sorry. Hello, good morning. Another caller on the line?
Yeah.
Yes. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, kindly before you go on, could you just put down the volume on your television so that we can hear you clearly?
Yeah, it's down.
Fully. All right. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, go on now.
Yeah, I was contributing.
Please, before you go on, give us your name.
My name is David.
Yes, David.
Yeah, Geert from South B.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm contributing to the topic that you are handling now.
Go full steam ahead.
About the green economy, I think this is the serious of the government. We need the government contribution. If you go to all parts of Kenya, actually you will find that Kenya is covered by 40% forest. What the government is doing to make sure that other parts of the country that is not covered by the forest. We have a good example, northeastern Kenya, eastern province. They are without any forest, and yet we need water. So how is it expensive for the government to take piped water to those places rather than take piped oil from Mombasa to Rwanda, to Burundi, Uganda, you can name it. So we need the government hand, if indeed we are serious that we want to see this Kenya or our country covered by the forest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Another call on the line. Hello, good morning.
This is Vincent.
Hello.
This is Vincent Odiga.
Yes, Vincent.
Yes, I was I wanted to make a contribution towards the environmental conservation.
Please.
So I was suggesting instead of sensitizing the wananchi, they should impose through the government that everybody at least plant 5 trees in a year. It should be a government regulation. At least 5 trees.
Right. Are you through?
Yeah, I'm through. I'm through.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Vincent. Let's just discuss those questions and, of course, the contributions that we have from our viewers. I hope you've not lost your track of thought of where we were.
Not really.
Right.
Not really.
Let's just address them first, then we'll go back to the entry points that we're talking about.
Yeah, very interesting things. You see, what this demonstrates is that Kenyans know what really is the problem on the ground. And you can see where those calls are coming from. From Isiolo, they are saying, here we need this. We have a lot of wind energy. We have a lot of this on the ground. Local people are saying, there's a citizen contributing. He is willing to have a law that imposes 5 trees per Kenyan. Can you imagine how many trees we would have? 20. If we are 40 million, say the number that can plant trees is 20 million, you multiply that by 5, we are talking of so many trees. If that was translated into wood, we can get the wood we need to build the parliament you are talking about. But the more important thing in this context is that these things should happen at the local level. The 25 trees will be planted somewhere by an individual Kenyan. The wind energy that Kenyans are seeing in the countryside that needs to be harnessed, and they are making a call to government. The only bit that should happen is, or that we have to be aware of is, the devolution process under the new constitution would seek or should seek to ensure that all these ideas are part of the development planning process. That is why we are saying this is a great opportunity to get all these voices into mainstreamed into planning and policy development. And if we can achieve that, of course, the caller from Isiolo, sorry, I didn't pick the name very clearly, is saying, yeah, bring this sensitization to this local level.
And of course, he's challenging your ambassador, saying, well, come to Isiolo. What is up your collective sleeves? As far as Isiolo is concerned, you're going to the county. Isiolo is a county.
I know, and that's why we are there. I mean, we have been supporting the Northern Kenya development. And also in Isiolo, we have been doing water programs. We are doing now rangeland management in this, not particularly in Isiolo, but in that area, in around Laikipia and what Benson is saying. We should get this down to the ground. We should get this to where local people can actually act. That's why we must ensure that, for example, just a simple thing, that rangeland management is so important. That when you have the cows and the cattle and the sheep walking around, that this is done in an organized manner.
Yeah.
We have seen examples already now of how this can actually lead to development. How that instead of letting them walk all over the place, organizing this so that they are kept within a certain area at a particular time, that the excrements from the cows are used as fertilizer. You get a green area where they have been walking. You move them to another area, and then in this organized way, you can preserve the cattle and you can preserve the nature at the same time.
Right.
So you get the two elements here. You get economic growth, and you get the environment preserved, and you get the people employed, right?
True.
You get benefits so that you can use money for kids in that area to go to school. So you have the economic benefit, you have the social benefit, and you have the environmental benefit. Let me just, if you allow me, just to comment with an example of what this green economy is also when we talk about practice. About a month ago now, we visited Elizabeth Mulingo in Makueni. She is a very smart Kenyan farmer. She has a farm where she grows mango, she grows snap beans, and she grows watermelons and a couple of other things. What she realized was, by moving in with modern technology, she can save water and she can save energy. She had an old pump which was diesel driven. That has now been replaced by a solar system, so that this lady can now water a larger area, and she can do this in a way that is sustainable because she uses the sun that is there, right? And this is a very simple example that, because the green economy is not something new to the Kenyans, it is already here. What we just have to do is to focus more upon it, to make sure that it actually happens more, and get the framework conditions, get these incentives in place that makes this lucrative for people to do, making sure that the banks are aware that actually investment in green economy, investment in water pumps that are driven by sun, investment in energy efficiency. We are supporting Kenya Association of Manufacturers, making audits of buildings like this here. Is this newspaper, the TV station here, can energy be saved? Going through this and then making money funds available so you can actually invest in these things. This is action on the ground. This is actually what you talk about.
Right. And I think also your country is such a sterling example on how to manage what we call wetlands. Yeah, you reclaimed a lot of moorlands that were marshy and swamp, and now you have solid ground. We have here very arid land. How do we now turn it now to be maybe arable land that we can try and come up with farmers from that area?
I believe, first of all, working with the people. I'm sure in these arid lands that we are talking about, which we discussed before, are hit by several factors now, which makes the present use on the probably not sustainable, and where we actually need to do more. The government, together with these people, but through these people, not the government, through the people, because it is very important that we don't try to say, okay, the government can do everything. The government cannot do anything and should not do everything, but they should make the means available so that some of the poorest people are assisted and some of the more well-off actually get the opportunity to do what they can do with their money, right? And in that way, by making infrastructure available in the northern part of Kenya so that the roads are there, that the water is there for the cattle and the people, for grazing lands to be preserved in such a way that they can move around with their cattle, and also for other infrastructural development like schools and health centers. Let me take an example where we are also trying to support the local people in the northern Kenya. We cannot have fixed stations where the kids should go for vaccination when the people are moving around. That's contradictory in terms with how people are living there.
It's true.
So what we do, we work very closely with the Ministry of Health. And what we do, we have nomadic clinics. So when the pastoralists are moving around, we try to assist them where they are. This is very efficient, and we get what is most important, we get the kids vaccinated. So whenever there is an outbreak of one of these contagious diseases, the kids are not affected. This is development in that part of the country where we work directly with the people for the benefit, because you see, some of these things are beyond the individual, right? We have to work collectively to ensure that the collective is actually benefiting, but we do that through the individual person, right? And this is the essential part here. And also for the development there, where we work with the people, we make the conditions available so that they can flourish, because there is so much talent in this country among the youth and among the adult population, and people are so keen to learn and to develop that I'm impressed.
Thank you so very much. Maybe Benson, as we are winding up right now, I need you to tell me briefly, do we have the wherewithal within the counties right now and the structures to really enforce or see this transitioning into the green economy? And lastly, also, as we're winding up, I want you to tell me, when is the conference, where will it be, and who is invited?
Very interesting. The wherewithal within the counties to do that? Definitely. You know why? The biggest resource we have in this country is our people. And there are people in these counties. And we are talking of individual initiatives. And we are saying that this is not totally new. People are already struggling on the ground there with means of making livelihood. And they are getting more and more aware that these resources are finite, that they need to adjust in how they use them and all that. With the necessary facilitation from government. And I'm talking of facilitation because the resources, the wherewithal is already in the counties. If you look at Article 6 of the Constitution, it says the two governments, county and national governments, will work on the basis of cooperation and they will be interdependent. That is where facilitation comes in. If we get the right leadership on the ground, we have the people, and if we do local planning and identify priorities and make the right laws and strategies, we should be able to harness those resources on the ground, of course with the support of our development partners, because let's face it, we are still behind in terms of economic endowment. So this support will continue. And in terms of, and that is where the whole issue of this conference comes in. This is just part of this continuing dialogue. That today and tomorrow at Kenyatta International Conference Center,
happening today.
Yes, with the support of the Danish government and in collaboration with other partners. This involves several government agencies. The Prime Minister's office, it's convened by the Ministry of Environment. There is the Ministry of Arid Lands, and you heard us talking about arid lands issues. And private sector, we talked of that. You had the support that is given to come to audit buildings and all that. And of course, local communities we are talking about under CDTF, Community Development Trust Fund, which is actually a fund that is targeted for community initiatives at local level. All these partners, together with academia and other experts, are convening at KICC to see how are we doing in this country with this issue of green economy. And we'll be discussing issues not far from this, but the whole idea is within the context of the Natural Resource Management Program that we talked about, we would want to see after 1 year, because the first one was held last year, after 1 year, how have we done? Can we do it better? What are the new voices, local voices that have come in that we need to tap and listen to? So at KICC, we will be having that meeting today and tomorrow, but that is not the end of it. It's a continuing dialogue.
It's a continuing dialogue.
That this can happen.
Is it also a preamble to the Rio Plus 20?
It's part of that process.
Which is happening in June.
I must admit, we may not be doing very well in terms of preparing for Rio Plus 20. I can say that, but that is an individual opinion protected under the Constitution. But there is still room, at least some 2 months to do it. I only fear that the window may be closing for us to get our act together. I hope we do.
Yeah, hope we do. Hope we do. And of course, how providential that today you're having this conference and today we're celebrating the World Water Day. It is really meshing very well with this. Ambassador, I really appreciate you coming this morning, and thank you for your salutary effort in making sure that we're having a green economy in this country.
Thanks a lot.
Benson, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, we've been speaking to the Ambassador Geert Andersen, who's the ambassador of Denmark to Kenya, and he's been telling us about what the green economy is all about. And of course, also we've been speaking to Benson Ochieng. Institute is the director of Institute for Law and Environmental Governance here in Nairobi. And today we remind you it's the World Water Day. And I'll leave you with the words of Thomas Fuller, who says, "We never know the worth of water till the well is dry." Think about that. Up next, we'll be talking about CCTV surveillance, security in the city. We've been seeing bombs and grenades going off every which way in every quarter of the city. So what is happening on the ground? Experts will be telling us more. Don't go away.
He doesn't eat, he doesn't sleep, and he's bitter. And Something similar happened to Miss Lorenza and all of the workers. Take care of yourselves, Nicolasa. Be careful because that woman will cast a spell on all of you.
Nakwambia mara ngapi? Nakwambia mara ngapi ufunge mlango ukiwa umesafisha? Sasa utaenda uangalie kwa hiyo takataka ulitupa jana. Nimesema uende uangalie kwa ile takataka ulitupa jana na usiporudi hapa na hiyo bahasha utaniona. Unafikiri unafanya kazi na mtu mwenye unajua mimi ni mwandazimu?
In John's life, action runs non-stop. Now I can't be with him all the time, 24 hours a day. That's why I've given him Dettol Soap's non-stop protection, which gives him 24 hours protection from germs. In the morning when he faces germs, afternoon when he's up to mischief, playing in the evening. Non-stop protection keeps going on and on.
Indeed, Dettol Soap's non-stop protection formula has the power of Dettol, which gives non-stop protection from germs for 24 hours.
All day and all night.
Mother's weapon for non-stop protection. Dettol. Be 100% sure.
Next episode, in association with Oliset Classic Mosquito Nets.
I said we love you, girl. Happy birthday.
Where's Leo?
Why are we here?
I want us to test.
Why didn't you just ask me?
I guess I'm asking now.
You promised, right?
Femi, answer me. Femi.
Oliset Classic Nets are intelligently formulated to repel and kill mosquitoes for up to 5 years.
Oliset Classic, available in all leading supermarkets.